Welcome to Scrolling to Death. Today you're going to meet the lovely and strong Annie McGrath. Annie lost her son Griffin at just 13 years old when he tried the choking challenge that he had learned about on YouTube. Griffin had no idea that this could be fatal, as social media made it seem innocent and fun. Annie is sharing Griffin's story to educate us parents. What do we need to know to protect our kids from online harms like the choking challenge? And how can we stop big tech from prioritizing and pushing deadly content to our kids? And I'm really glad I have Bark Technologies as this week's episode sponsor. Bark is a parental controls company for parents who are looking to protect their kids from online dangers like dangerous challenges. I'm so grateful that parents of today have safer device options like Bark to make our kids' entire digital experience safer. Now let's meet Annie. But hey, Annie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so looking forward to getting to know Griffin and reading a little bit about who he was and seeing his photos. I just want to start first with you telling me about Griffin. What were his interests? What were his dreams?
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I'm amazed at all you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Griffin he was really an extraordinary little kid. Anything he set his mind to, he could do. He had just placed third place in the National Science Bowl for middle school. Like, if you look it up on YouTube and try and answer a couple of those questions, it's like Jeopardy times a trillion. He just had third
Amazing.
place in the Nationals. Yeah, he
Wow.
was a speed Rubik's Cuber. So we would go to speed cubing contests, and his best time was 8.7 seconds.
Holy.
He played drums. He played the sax. He was a pitcher in a softball team. He was in the youth group. I mean, just everything he set his mind to, he really excelled at. And yeah, he was also he was just a sweet kid and touched everyone he met, because he just had, if he had something to say, it was going to be funny or important. And he wasn't the chattiest Kathy, but when he had something to say, it was witty or funny or really a good observation or something like that.
Do you have other kids?
Yes, his sister. Yeah,
A
he's got
sister.
one sister. Yeah, they were 18 months apart, so
Oh, wow.
they were really close.
Oh. Was Griffin always really into math and science? He sounds like my son, who's just like a whiz at math. He's younger, but I'm wondering if I
I
should get him on the Rubik's Cube now.
Seriously. Griffin even started his own Rubik's Cube company with my husband.
Whoa.
I have one right here. See, this is a special, he invented a Rubik's Cube. We went to the speed cubing contest, and he was always taking them apart with his friend David and oiling them up and stuff. And we went to a contest in Chicago, and it broke. And speed cubing contest, you have 15 seconds. They set it down. You get to look at it for 15 seconds. Then they do the timer, and you go. So you only have one shot. And if it breaks, that's it. So he was mad about it. And then he and his best friend David and Josh, they put magnets underneath and put this special oil on them. And then they started selling them online. My husband helped them start doing that. And they were selling them like crazy. And yeah, it was fun for them.
Is it still in business?
I don't think so. He said they taped themselves on YouTube doing it, and now really they do have faster ones out there on the market. I think they were ahead. I was like, you taped yourself? Don't tape yourself.
No.
So you're giving away the
proprietary.
patent.
Oh,
but really, they
wow.
were selling them for $25, and it was costing them $20, so it wasn't like money making thing.
It was so sweet. That's very cool. And what was his relationship like to technology? Was he was he into his phone? Was he on social media?
He loved it, but we didn't even let him have a phone until he was 13. And he wasn't even really on social media. He didn't. He had a Facebook account, but he had just set it up, and it didn't even have his picture on it. So he liked playing Minecraft. He liked what kids like. He liked to be on Google Meet and Google Chat with his friends and Skype and do all that. But really, YouTube is where he did like to be on, because he was always trying to invent something. He was always trying to invent like a Spider-Man web shooter. Like they have from the wrist to hang from the ceiling.
Cool.
And he even invented one that could hold a rocking chair from the ceiling. So he was watching YouTube all the time. Like that was still his goal of getting a web shooter to work. So he was on YouTube, but I didn't mind, because I was just looking at,
Yeah.
experiments.
And I think most parents think that YouTube is safe. There's YouTube Kids too, which can be problematic in itself. But what did Griffin come across in 2018 in February on YouTube that kind of changed all your lives forever?
He came across a challenge. It has many names. Kids are smart. They know how to get around parental controls because we had all the controls. We did random checks on his phone. We went to see what they're looking at, their history. We had all of them. But there was a challenge. Oh, they're called the Pass Out Challenge or the Space Monkey Challenge is what he and his friends were calling it. It's just different names all the time where kids try and pass out. That's the goal. You pass out and then you win and then you get likes and then it's a wow, I did it. It's just it's like all the other challenges, you do it. And he was dared to do it by a little girl at school that he had a crush on, and he was FaceTiming with two kids when it went wrong.
How did you find out what happened? You just saw afterward on his phone that what he was watching, or did the friends tell you?
Right away that night, I mean, it was, I knew that he wasn't trying to end his life. I knew he wasn't trying to take his life. But my daughter, she went on to his Google Chats, and then one of his friends down the street said that some kids were asking if we could go look for an ambulance and stuff. So then we knew kids were involved, other people in the school involved. And then the next day, they went and turned their phones in and said they were doing the pass out challenge, and that he was doing it. And so,
So other kids at his school were trying it. He was in middle school at the time.
he was in 8th grade. Yeah, and they were trying, other kids, yeah, and just that they had dared him, that they were on the phone with him when he really passed out, because kids just pass out. What they don't realize is they pass out, and then they just don't wake up because they just don't.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So since this happened, gosh, has it been 6 years?
6 years already.
So you would be 19. What have you learned about this online challenge? Is it something that's still available on social media and YouTube and something that parents should be looking out for?
I mean, it took me a couple of years to get to my knees. I also had lost my husband too, and my dad and Bubba all within 4 months of each other.
Annie.
So it was really hard. But it took me a couple of years, but then I'd been looking them up. I realized what this was. You know, when the police said this is the pass out challenge and kids at school, my husband and I, we knew about the cinnamon challenge. We knew about the Tide Pod challenge. We had had those talks in the car with kids, you know. We had said, don't do those dumb things but we had never really sat them down and really had this lengthy conversation, or what I would say is show them a picture and say kids are dying. Don't, please, I just wish, because I didn't know of it. All of us parents. I mean, there's a group I'm in. I think you know Joanne, but it's just parents of kids have died from the pass out game, and there's almost 1,300 of us in this Excel file that Judy has, and those are just the ones that either were on the news that we found, or that came and were stumbling and found each other. Like, it took me 2 years. And then I finally reached out to Judy Rugg, just because I saw her. She started a cause called Eric's Cause about the choking game. And I reached out to her after 2 years. And then, you know, it just takes time. So for parents to even do that, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's in the thousands. Another example is when it was his anniversary and the school was planting a tree and the news came, and I talked about the choking game. 5 people in Madison alone reached out and said same thing, me too. 5 people in Madison.
Wow. So this number could be 10% of the total that have passed away. I mean, or less.
Yeah. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg, because parents don't know. You know, they don't know what happened. I mean, I had the phone and I had his friends tell, but a lot of parents just don't even understand or know, or it takes a lot of time. And going to the news right when all that's happening is really hard. It's in the thousands.
Wow. Do the social media companies know? Well, let me start here. What platforms are you seeing this on? What platforms is the choking challenge located on?
Well, I see it on TikTok. I report them every single day. I have been reporting them since 2 days after Bubba died, because then I started looking, of course. You know, when the police were there and his friends were telling me about it, of course I started looking, and I could find kids doing dangerous stunts all over and actively choking themselves. And I've been reporting them every single day for 6 years. And some of the ones I was reporting 6 years ago are still up. I still report them every day.
Oh, whoa. Okay.
And these are videos where kids are passing out, and then they convulse a little, and they wake up, and then they laugh, and then they say, "Did it?" And they're everywhere. And you can report them as a dangerous challenge, and then they just send a post back saying, if this violates our community standards, we'll take it down. And then they don't.
They don't, even if they say it violates our community standards.
They say, if it does, if this
if
violates our community standards, we'll take it down, and that's all. And they don't take it down 6 years later.
Okay, so you're seeing it on TikTok, YouTube, any other platforms?
Those are the only two I really look at. Those are where I can find 50. I literally can find 50 of them in 5 minutes.
Oh my God. And then when you report them, do any of them get taken down?
Few and far between, maybe like 2% of them. After a while, maybe they start looking, but I don't think any human people are ever looking at them. I really don't.
Do you think the social media companies know about this? Do you think they know that kids are dying from the choking challenge, or do you think these reports are just going to a computer and getting ignored?
I think they know. I really think they know. Have you read The Chaos Machine ever?
No, I feel like I just saw that today. No,
it's a really great book, and it explains the technology companies and how it all started. And the tech companies, it's full of research and academic studies, and it says in there that they hired external content moderators, so human beings that would go look for dangerous content, and they were filled with typos, huge loopholes. They allowed anything, and these people would report them. Same with the whistleblowers for Facebook and everything. People are reporting it, saying, and they just have blatant disregard. They just say we have these rules, but they're so huge, and there's so many ways they can get around them that even the people that are hired to do this weren't taking them down per the company. And it was, it takes a few whistleblowers to come out, and then they still don't change it. Nothing has changed.
Can we assume that the choking challenge videos specifically don't get taken down because they earn a lot of engagement, and that's good for the profits of the companies?
That's exactly. I mean, they want people to spend as much time as possible on their phones. That's more ads that they see. That's more things they might buy. And their whole product is time. So and kids are their next market. So they want those kids. They want engagement, user engagement. That's their business model. Get more time on them, more engagement. And the more insidious and the more dangerous and the more funny is just what people flock to. And even the conspiracy things, all those things, they get so many views, and the tech companies know this. They realize it. They've had Congress and Senate talk to them as well. 10 times now they've gone to Senate and Congress, and nothing has changed.
Who's they? The parents?
The executives of the companies, Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, right.
Yeah, 10 times that they've been there.
And nothing happens. You think it's a whole hoopla, and you think something's got to happen after this, especially the one on January 31st where they forced Meta CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, to apologize to the parents. Did you attend that hearing?
I did. I missed that one because a friend of mine here in town passed away. But it was a meaningless apology because he didn't make any changes after that, and he said, "I apologize, but we're doing all of this stuff to safeguard," and they're not. So it was callous. It was cold, and nothing ever happens. It's kind of a grandstanding thing. The senators get to grandstand and, do their politics, and they never hold them to anything. So, yeah, they know that's how their profits. That's how they're getting their profits, and they don't want to turn that off because they would see their profits drop dramatically right away.
But parents are like, but children are dying. So, what's the priority here? You mentioned separately that you were able to speak at an Alphabet conference. So Alphabet is the parent company of Google, so owns YouTube, right? So you were able to make them aware of this issue at that time. Can you tell me more about that?
There's a lot of really great grassroots nonprofits that I've been working with, and one of them is Parents Together, and then Fair Play for Kids. And they asked me to present at an Alphabet shareholder meeting last summer.
Right.
And I did. What they wanted was they have a resolution. It was called Resolution 15, and they have audit and compliance committee assigned, and they monitor all risks. So they measure financial risk, human risk, all of the risk. But there's no oversight of it. No one's seeing, what do you do? How many do you see? Nothing. So we asked for this resolution to be passed, that an independent audit would come in, analyze how they are assessing risk, what they're doing to do it. But it didn't happen because 51% of the voting shares are owned by the founders and then individual investors at the top. So it didn't pass, of course. And then afterwards, we sent them letters. Joanne Bogart was on your show before she lost her son Mason to the Pass Out Challenge too. We both wrote a letter together to all of the board members that were in the meeting, and they got returned undeliverable.
What? No. Okay. So they're grading their own homework and then they're not required to have a third party auditor. And that was what you were that would make sense. So we know what's actually happening on these platforms.
Right. And that's what the shareholders want. I think the parents want these tech companies to step up, and they want to know, how are you evaluating this? What are you doing? How are you trying to mitigate? What are your parameters? And they don't have to show it. And that's why this one resolution would have helped. But no, they just callously, they apologized. They had it pre-taped and said, we're sorry for your loss, but we take them down, the same thing.
And you're like, no, you don't.
No, I know.
This is crazy. They are not going to become safe on their own. And so we're going to need to force them through legislation, no matter how hard it is to get legislation passed. So are you supporting any bills that you feel would make the platform safer?
Yes, exactly. I think there's been no legislation on social media in 25 years. None. Zero. Since COPPA in 1988. It's crazy that it's like any other thing where your children are getting harmed, people would be screaming. The Boeing airplane, when the door came off, if children had gotten hurt in that, like, they would have grounded Boeing. They would have had a whole FAA regulation. This is happening every day, and we're telling them, and we're going to the news and we're reporting it, and there's nothing being done. So
why don't you think there's anything being done?
Because they need to be forced, because there's no regulation. And there's a bill out there right now, the Kids Online Safety Act. We've been trying to help promote it for 2.5 years now, and it's in really good shape. It has the support of all the LGBTQ communities. I mean, it has full support of we worked out all the kinks. It's just having the Federal Trade Commission regulate social media companies, just like they do seatbelts, just like they do cigarettes.
Yeah.
It's bipartisan. We have 70 sponsors in the Senate now. We are working on Congress, and we're hoping to get to the floor before the August recess. Right now, this week, Senator Schumer said they could even put it on I think it was called the hot track or something, somewhere they could get it through really fast if they could get 100 senators. And we're starting a campaign about Senator Paul Rand, because he's the one blocking it right now. We're trying to put pressure on, let's do it. There's no excuse.
Yeah, no. And listeners who follow me will see a video that I posted. So today's July 10th. This interview will be a bit later than that, but I'm encouraging parents to call Senator Paul's office, and I included the phone number. I even did a video of me calling, leaving him voicemail. It takes literally 20 seconds.
Thank you.
So yeah, and I'm going to call more times today and this week, because I think
Me too.
And they didn't answer. I went to voicemail, so I'm hoping their phone lines are blowing up today.
Yeah, we just need to flood it. I'm going to tag people and say, here you go. Please, please, please.
Yeah. I tagged him on Instagram. So we'll see.
He's one person. If we could get him, we could get this through the Senate. So then we would just need Congress, and then we could, Biden has already said he supports it. So we're so close. And for some reason, this up before the August recess is key, before the elections start and the campaigning starts.
Yes.
So we're on a really tight schedule.
Okay. So all hands on deck, and I'm doing everything I can with the parent listeners that I have to, for now, get a hold of Senator Rand Paul and get him to stop blocking the bill. Yes.
God bless you. Thank
I
you.
know you parents have been working for years on this one bill, and it's been through a lot. And I know there were some minor concerns toward the beginning and that have been resolved now. But I think big tech continues to push this narrative that it's a free speech issue and there's LGBTQ plus issues. But that's all been resolved. And so someone had a question about it today. And I said, listen, every single parent I talk to that's lost a child supports KOSA and feels that if KOSA were in place, their child would be here today. And that's all that I need to hear. And that should be all you need to hear too. Like, we have to protect our children.
Exactly.
Okay. So what else have you learned about challenges? This isn't the only online challenge that exists online. I know there's always something new coming up, but what should we generally talk to our kids about regarding online challenges?
I mean, online challenges are just one of the many, many social media harms out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some statistics. I mean, cyberbullying is up 59% right now. Fentanyl, which is 50 times stronger than heroin, I mean, that's just everywhere. The suicide rates every day at 12 youth suicides in the U.S. Even the Surgeon General just came out and said that high school students are feeling sad or hopeless, and 1 out of 3 teenage girls. Sextortion, there's been 36 million reports of suspected child exploitation. I mean, there's so many things that parents have to face and just don't realize that I think they don't even know where to begin, and they're private, I didn't tell my parents a lot of things when I was in 7th and 8th grade in high school, for sure. I kept a lot of things private. So it's a hard place for a parent to be because you want to have those talks with your kid, but sometimes it's really hard for them to really tell you, especially with something dangerous or.
Until these companies are required to be safer, what would you advise parents? Just delay access, like don't let them on social media as long as possible? What would you advise?
For sure, and at least till 13. I mean, that's how long we waited. Then there's a point where the kids just need to have they get ostracized at school, and made fun of. At least I think that might be by 8th grade. And then it's also hard when you're trying to do after school sports. Like Bubba had 2 after school things every day, so friends with sleepovers. He just needed to be able to. But I say if you can try at least till 8th grade, or freshman year, even better.
Yeah.
And then just really just talk to your kids, ask them a lot of questions, just spend a lot of time where you're really fully present in a non-accusatory way. Not, have you seen these challenges? Don't try them. Or just really asking them, have you heard of this? And then if they have, or if you can sense that there's something, then show them that kids have died. Like scare them, like Mothers Against Drunk Driving did. Put a little fear into them because kids, their prefrontal cortex is not developed till they're 25. So no matter how smart they are, it doesn't matter, like Bubba, if you can solve a Rubik's Cube in 8 seconds and win the National Science Bowl, they're still children. They will still do risky things. They will still not think twice. They can't think through the consequences of their actions, just like when we were kids. They think they're invincible. So they will.
Yeah, they get in these situations and you think you've had the conversation and then it goes out the window as well because like yesterday I talked to Brian Montgomery who lost his son Walker to suicide after a sextortion attempt. And he told me that they were making all the kids in the town aware and there was a whole thing. And then one kid knew the story. And then 2 weeks later, he fell for a sextortion attempt. So like even them knowing that this could happen to them and how scary it is and dangerous, they could still fall for it because they are so impulsive. How do you feel about adding like parental monitoring onto the kids' phones so you can get updates if something like that comes across their feed?
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be great. I've heard of Bark is really good. There's starting to be some ways you can protect, and that gives me a little peace.
Yeah. Pausing here to remind you about a tool that can help protect your child from online harms like the Dangerous Choking Challenge. That is the Bark phone and the Bark Parental Monitoring app. Bark uses advanced AI to scan text messages, social media, images, videos, and even audio for threats like dangerous challenges and drug content, cyberbullying, even child sexual abuse material. The harms of social media are scary, but tools like Bark can give us some peace of mind. The Bark phone is the most customizable kids phone with text and social media monitoring built in. It's really the safest option, much, much safer than an iPhone. But if you're going with an Android or an iPhone, please consider layering on the Bark parental monitoring app. It's high-tech monitoring that scans their activities for harmful content. You can create screen time schedules, block certain websites and apps, and a ton more. Back to my conversation with Annie. Yeah, because you do. I mean, I get you want to give your kids some level of privacy. I don't know how much they really need it in these young teen years, but with companies like Bark, you don't have to read every message, but they give you an alert if something harmful happens, which I
Yeah,
think is save. It really truly is saving lives, and so
I believe that too. Yes,
yeah,
I'm all for it. I think anything you can do. And then I'm hoping if we could get some legislation, then we
yeah.
could just really, because it shouldn't all be on the parents. We shouldn't be having to try and figure all of this out when kids are so far ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they with technology, they know a lot more than we think. You know, and they
Yeah.
know a lot. They're a lot faster than us. So
Yeah. And what do you say to when a kid passes away? And I'll share a story, and then some comments will be like, parents' fault. The parent should have been monitoring. The parent should have known. What do you say to that? I hate this comment, but what do you say to that?
I have had that happen to me. You know, in some posts that we've made, and people have said horrible things. And they're
Yeah.
saying, don't blame technology companies because your kid is stupid, you know, or, you know, blame the parents, blame the tech companies for bad parenting. You are a bad parent, lady. Just like,
Yeah, it's not.
I just don't respond. I mean, I think there's trollers. That's the problem. Like kids, when they go online, they're getting cyberbullied by all these anonymous people, and people
Mm-hmm.
behind the screen are just ruthless. They
Mm-hmm.
really are. I just set it aside. I don't pay attention to it, and I say they have no idea because it can happen to anyone. It can happen any kid. You know, every kid. Lots of kids are gonna do crazy stunts there, that's for sure, especially little boys. The pass out challenges mostly boys, you
Mm-hmm.
know. They're the ones like we talked about before, climbing trees or on top of the house or
Mm-hmm.
pushing the boundaries, jumping in the lake, you know,
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
It's just boys. But also the drugs that are out there that are as easy to get as calling an Uber, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and are being pushed on them. And these challenges getting pushed on them too. Like even if they don't want it, if they look at it one time, it's going to keep coming, and
Mm-hmm.
then normalizing it. And then the cyberbullying, kids are being mean to them. They can't handle it at these young ages. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, those comments bother me, and I'm a 50-year-old woman. Like, think about how a kid's brain has to try and get
Yeah.
through that, especially in the middle school years and when everything is changing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's no wonder. And it's finally the tech companies we're just catching on now. Like, thank goodness it's taking momentum finally,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what it's going to take. We're going to just have to force these companies to make change.
Well, and you know why we're having momentum? It's because of parents like you speaking up and telling your story and having the strength to do that. And I know how hard that is. I see parent after parent struggle through these re-traumatizations through telling these stories again and again. And we are so, on behalf of parents, we're so, so grateful to you and all the other parent survivors for sharing and introducing us to your children. They're really important people, and they're making a big difference still in protecting other kids. So is there anything else that you want to share today?
Just that really it can happen to anyone, and parents just keep talking, having the hard talks with your kids. I mean, really just talk to them and make sure that they realize that there's all these dangers are out there, and just that you're there and you're always there to help them. And then please call your senators, please call your congressperson. It literally takes 3 minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
if we can get this passed, so many kids' lives, thousands of kids' lives will be saved from just fentanyl alone. I mean, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things.
Thank you, Annie. And I'll include links to contact your senator and your member in the House for
Thank you.
listeners. And
Thank you.
again, Annie, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nikki, do you mind if I read the poem
Oh,
really
yes.
quick?
Okay, wait, hold on. So, so Annie shared with me a beautiful poem that Griffin had written. And can you tell us about it and then read it to us really quickly? We'd love that.
Absolutely. He was taking a class through the UW Mass and Systems already. He was just a little smarty, and it was advanced lit class because he was doing all the math and trying to round himself out. And he wrote this on the book called The Wild a couple of weeks before he passed, and he showed it to me one night. We'd run home after school to change clothes or grab his sacks or something, and he showed it to me, and it just was so powerful. And we just celebrated. We still had all these stuff to do, so we celebrated going to Culver's and getting fish and burgers.
Yeah.
But it just is, I swear, it is so profound for a 13-year-old, and I'm just still so proud of him. So I would love to share it.
Yes, please, please.
See, my daughter, she drew a sunflower with it. I don't know if you can see it, but she drew a sunflower with it. And luckily, the school, his middle school, hung it up in the school. So that was nice. And I said, stay up forever. So that was just a little bit of peace for us too. It's called The Formula to Finding Purpose. A feeling that everyone feels is confusion. You don't know where you're going. There is a way to solve this. Don't let society shape you. Be who you want to be. Don't expect a future, but craft it yourself. Every decision you make pitches in. It pitches into the ultimate decision of your fate. This can result in good or bad. If you make the right decisions, if you pay attention to every choice you make, with enough effort and will, you will be who you will want to be. You will accomplish your goals. You will find purpose. Griffin, McGrath.
Wow. What a great lesson to be learned from that. And I think that you have found your new purpose, right? In doing this awareness work and advocacy. That's so special.
Thank you. This
Thank
is
you,
a
Annie,
little
for
gift
sharing.
I still have from him. I treasure it. So thank you.
Thank you.